Hey everybody, Shawn here from the Automation Blog and School, and in this episode of the Automation Podcast, I sit down with Bob Meads to learn about his augmented reality product for industrial automation called iQagent. Bob, thanks for coming on the Automation Podcast to tell us about iQagent. You know, the picture we're looking at right now on the screen, this to me looks like the future of our industry where people will be able to use, portable smart devices to get information on what's going on in their plant or their factory or their location where they have all this big industrial equipment running. So before you jump in and tell us all about this great product, could you first tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely, Shawn, and thanks for having me. I've been really looking forward to this. You got a great podcast, but my name is Bob Meads, and I'm the CEO of iQagent. I've been the CEO since we founded back in 2014, and I've got about 25 years on the plant floor and writing industrial applications, SCADA applications, and things like that. And this product, iQagent, is really what I wanted when I was running around the plant floor as a production engineer back in the 90s, to do exactly what you said, to give us information about where we were at, about the equipment that was around us that we could use to kind of do our job. So I'm excited to show this to you today, and kind of excited to get back out there after, the pandemic kind of shut down visitation and going out to plants and everything.
Yeah.
So the thing about iQagent, this is kind of my elevator pitch. And what we want to do is we want to make data and resources relevant to what you're working on, instantly accessible on your mobile or wearable device, because wearables like the RealWear, which you see there on the left of the screen, or the HoloLens, these are really becoming prominent out on the floor, especially due to some of the staff shortages and manpower shortages that we've seen in the last couple of years. Now, in layman's terms, this means I can point my mobile device at a piece of equipment and get all the information about that specific equipment. So live data, schematics, documents, and things like that. So we're kind of decentralizing how people consume data out on the plant floor. And I guess the problem statement, because you can't really sell to the manufacturing plant unless you're solving a critical problem. And some problems are so pervasive that you kind of quit looking at them as problems, and you just kind of have to feel like, all right, it's part of life. But technology tends to kind of change that. And the problems that I saw back when I was a production engineer and that people see today, especially when they have a lot of automation, is not that they don't have information. They've got a ton of information about the equipment. The problem is that this information is usually not available where you need it the most, which is basically standing right in front of the equipment. And so in most plants that I've been in, it's kind of a distributed approach, and it comes from how manufacturing is built. So you might have live data in the PLC, which bubbles up to the SCADA. So you may have to call the control room, or you may have to plug into a PLC or find an HMI panel. If you want to know the maintenance information, you may have to walk back to the maintenance shop. That's what we had to do, and go through the maintenance and see what's been done or if something needs to be done. If you want to know how it's been running in production, that's a completely different application, and maybe it's web-based. It's a different username and password. If you want the schematics, you may log on to, say, SharePoint or something like that. If you need information or ordering parts, you may have to go to the vendor's website. The point is, these are all different applications, and they're spread out all over the place, and you can't really get a picture of this. But these are all normal, very common systems out there, and they're familiar. And so our idea when the iPad 2 came out was, well, we see this as really inefficient because we're kind of walking away from problems to go get this information so that we can come back and fix it. Our idea was, let's find a deterministic way to identify a piece of equipment or just an area in the plant, and then use standard interfaces to aggregate all the data from all these systems, pull information about that equipment, and present it as a single, what we call point of interest on the mobile device. And so here you see an iPad, and we've got some live data coming out of the PLC. We got some links to documents and schematics and stuff like that. And this is really where we think that we can increase plant efficiency, because you can get data anywhere in the plant. It makes that plant floor a data rich environment, and it decentralizes how people consume data on the plant floor. So that's the core idea behind iQagent. We have, a lot of other very complementary features to that. And, there are a lot of platforms out there that let you write one application and some type of framework and push it to all devices. But there are some limitations there. You're basically writing for the lowest common denominator. So we've written native clients. Our flagship is for iOS and iPad. They had the hardware that was really there first to be able to run an application like this. But we also support Android phones and Windows 10 tablets. But the iPad here in America, and especially in North America, the iPad and iPhone are the most pervasive. Now in Europe, you're going to see a lot more Android. And for the wearable, the RealWear HMT one, and also the Navigator 500, which is the newer version of RealWear. This is a wearable headset. I'm going to be showing that. But this allows you to consume this information, but be completely hands-free. It's all voice activated, so you don't have to, touch it or press buttons or run down menus or something. You can use your voice to navigate. So these are the devices that we work on. And I'm going to give you a kind of a quick look at what it looks like from the user perspective. I'm going to pull up my iPad here, and I think my air server stopped running for some reason. So I'm going to go back and pull this guy up.
While you're doing that, I just wanted to talk a little bit about what I see as, and I think we kind of share this opinion a little bit, as probably going to be the next piece of disturbing or tech that's disruptive to the industry, and that is not only augmented reality, but also glasses, like a pair of glasses, not a HoloLens where it's big and bulky, but something that looks like a pair of reading glasses that will have the augmented reality built in. So everything's going to miniaturized. The RealWear and HoloLens and all these technologies are being developed and improved. And I really think, I mean, there's going to be a majority of population who wants to use their smart device to do this, like the iPad you're showing on the screen. But I think quickly people will adopt. I think it's quicker than we realize. People are going to adopt, and they may be $800-900 like our cell phones, right? But people are
Oh
going to
yeah.
love these because they will be able to walk down the aisle in the grocery store or walk down the aisle in the department store and see what's on sale and see what the regular price is and see how many calories it is. And for somebody in the plant, these may be attachments to their hard hats like the HoloLens had options for, where you'll be able to just look around your field of vision and see, the status. Is this running at 100%, 90%? Is it an alarm? So I personally think, and we talked about this in the pre-show, I think this is it's going to be a very good thing, but I don't think enough people are talking about it. And now I'll turn it back over to you. It looks like you have your iPad up.
Right, I sure do, and I agree with you. And we'll probably talk a little later in the show about the future, but there's a lot of people working on the glasses. But here you see my iPad, and I'm going to show you a couple of different apps. I'm going to pull up iQagent, and so here's kind of a quick demo where, let's say I'm out in the plant. Now this is actually just a picture, but you see the QR code there that's got the iQagent logo. That's what we call the point of interest, the POI. And so the camera recognizes it and picks it up, and it pulls up this display. And this is the data view of the display. This is showing real-time information. We support OPC UA, OPC DA, also ODBC. You can write SQL queries and pull production information right out of your production databases like SQL Server or MySQL, things like that. And you've noticed that I can chart this information. Now, this is not like a historian. This is really just to see how data are trending so that we can, maybe do some diagnosis or something like that.
Now,
Now,
I just want to quickly for the audio only audience. Bob he's showing us his iPad. He's holding it up. He's pointed it at a machine that has a QR code on it. And popping up on top of that, an overlay, a floating transparent window, shows some data values, some numeric displays, as well as a trend. And the trend looks kind of like a sawtooth. But so he's holding his iPad facing the machine, the camera facing the machine, and he has this overlay that pops up that gives him real-time data on the machine itself.
Oh, great. Yeah, I appreciate that. And for our audio only viewers, I'm gonna try to remember to describe this. But so the POI object, this is the data view. There's an eye icon in the bottom right. I'm going to tap it and it's going to flip over. And this is what we call our info view. So here I can pull up, say, a manual for this piece of equipment. So I'm pulling up, say a Siemens manual, say from SharePoint, and all the links work. I can pan and zoom. I can also pull up, say, a parts list and pan and zoom and get information about parts. Now, that's a lot of the story, but we also include the ability to create data entry forms like inspection forms. So the form that I'm going to be pulling up, and I'm just tapping on the link, and I've got a dialog that asks me if I want to open this form in a browser or in an app called iQagent Forms. It's going to be the same form, but if we open it in a browser, which I'll do right now, this means that this form can be filled out by anyone with a browser, whether or not they have the iQagent client. And it's just a simple form that asks us information. So this is an inspection form. And you can see that here the inspector's name is required. So we have the ID of required fields. We can also answer questions like here, yes or no, is it ready for inspection? We have a serial number that was automatically populated. So what we want to do is reduce how much information that the operator or the technician has to put in here. So based on the point of interest you're at, it can automatically populate things like images, serial numbers, things like that. Now here's kind of another interesting thing. We have a question which just has a radio button, yes or no. Do you want to see a video on how to perform this step? So if I choose yes, then it's going to show me a video embedded right in this form that shows me. But this allows operators who are maybe not as familiar with this procedure to see a quick video right there on the form that shows them how to complete the task. Now, if the answer is no, then I'm not cluttering up the vision of the person. The video only shows if they choose yes. And so another example of this is if I choose for the question, is production running? Let's say you have a business rule. If production's running, you have to get the line supervisor to sign off. So if I choose yes there, then it prompts the supervisor to sign. If I choose no, then they don't have to. Now, another thing that we have here is I'm actually showing live data that is updating from the equipment right in the screen. So instead of asking a question, hey, write down the temperature you see on the HMI, which they may be, they may not be able to find it, or they may write it down wrong. They may not be able to read it. This would actually just fill that information in directly from the process. So there's no real chance of making a mistake. And then here I've got another question, do you see any problems? And if I say yes, it gives me a list of problems that I can just check. And more importantly, a picture's worth 1,000 words, right? So I can choose to take a picture of the actual equipment. So I've got the camera up, it takes the picture, and then I can draw directly on the picture of where the problem is. So instead of having to write a bunch of text about what the issue is, I can just have a picture which gives you a lot more information, a lot more intuitive information, and then I can just sign this off and say I'm done. So the first thing that we do is we allow you to associate information like videos, forms, diagnostic procedures, inspection forms, things like that, directly with a piece of equipment, as well as live data, so you don't have to go looking for it. Now, this is really more assisted reality than augmented reality. Assisted reality is when you have a picture and you have a camera and you're pulling information, but it's not necessarily sticky. So let me show you what augmented reality looks like. We have
Before you go
another
into
app.
that, I'm sorry, Bob, before you go into that, I
Sure.
just really wanted to talk about the use cases for what you just showed. And if you are most facilities I've been in over the last 30 years, they're always very, very busy, right? So
Right.
something goes down, you got to hurry up and get it working, and then you run over to somewhere else, hurry up and get that working, and then you run over somewhere else. There's not a lot of time for report writing and documenting what you did, and sometimes that happens over coffee before or after your shift. But what
Yes.
this allows you to do is just whip out your phone or your tablet, take a picture, fill in a couple of fields, but all of the data from the machine itself is populated for you. And so that just is super time saver. And you can take a picture of what broke, you take a picture of what you fixed, and aside from that use case, which I think is so powerful, there's all and of course you're getting the data, so you can say yes, I fixed it, and you're proving that the temperatures were right, the speeds were right, the pressures were right, or whatever. Everything was right. It truly
Right.
was fixed when you left it. So they can't say, hey, it's not working, you didn't do it. But the other
Yep, which
side
we
too
know
is,
happens.
if you have to
Yep.
set up something that's very complicated, think pharmaceutical, or think a process that's very complicated. How do you know that how do you have a record as the manager of these people who go around reconfiguring machines all day to know that it was done correctly? Well, they can just go up here and say, yeah, sorry, everything's set up. Let me pull up my IQ agent and boom, boom, boom. Yes, I did this. I followed all these steps. Yes, 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 yes. It captures the live data from the machine, so you can see all the set points were set correctly, hopefully, and now that gets submitted to the system, and it just makes those people so efficient. And it really is great for the employee because he says, look, I got a snapshot, right? It's like why we love cell phones so much and the cameras in them. It's like I can prove I did it. It's right here. Here's the live
Right.
data. So those are two use cases as you were going through that I just wanted to talk about, because I think especially for the audio only audience, they kind of think that through. It just seems like a good direction to go in.
Oh yeah, and that's why we came up with this. But there's another use case, and I hear this all the time, and it's basically about the knowledge gap. And especially with COVID, we've had a lot of older workers choose to just go ahead and retire because it kind of made sense. And you also had a lower number of workers who were actually able to get into the plant, and so we had this knowledge gap. And so for the people going out, for every time you have someone who has been, at the plant a long time and they leave, you can't reap 100% of what they know of their experience. So you're losing just this library of information. And so one of the ways that iQagent has been used is to, let's say you've got somebody who's an expert, on tuning a certain piece of equipment. With this, you can actually just have them tune the equipment, catch them on camera, have them, describe what they're doing. And then now that's a video you can associate directly with the equipment so that anytime anybody needs that, you have the person right there in context of the machine showing how to do it. You can input it into an inspection report. And it's no different than what we do with YouTube. The other day, I changed a headlight out on my daughter's car,
Hmm.
and they were going to charge me an arm and a leg to do it at the shop. So I went and bought one, went to YouTube, and I, searched for how to change a headlight on her model of car, found a video, followed video, and I was able to do it. So this is allowing people with less experience to perform at a much higher level with much less error because they have someone basically holding their hand, but we're not taking up another person to do it. And I think that's a pretty important use case too, because we can really alleviate a big problem that plants are having today, which is losing their experience base, with some of their outgoing people.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, but I appreciate that. You brought up some good points. That there's a couple of other things that we have here. One of the things is about communication. So let's say that you're at the piece of equipment and I'm your technical person and you need to ask me a question. So one of the things that we can do is kind of draw directly on the screen. And what I'm, showing is the camera, showing the equipment. I'm drawing right on top in another layer. I've got the data up, and I can actually add a text box because my handwriting's terrible. And I can just kind of type out a message, is this okay? and I can drop that anywhere that I want, and then I can take a snapshot of that. And then what I can do is take this, what we call an augmented snapshot, and just send it to someone. So here you can see I've pulled up an email. I've got an annotated photo showing live data at the time, and I've got my drawings and my text. And this is a lot more efficient than me spending 10 minutes typing out an email trying to describe where I'm at, what I'm doing, what I'm seeing. This allows you to communicate that very quickly. And we also have the ability to do a full HD video, and they can see everything that's on the screen and send that. So this is kind of a collaboration piece of technology without actually, having the complete remote mentoring and all the infrastructure that comes with that. You can actually just kind of capture all this information. And another thing that we have is notifications, push notifications. So it's not enough, let's say that a printer jams, and when that printer jams, it backs up a production line. Well, if nobody knows it's jammed, then probably a few minutes are going to go by that you're losing production that you don't know about it. What you need is the printer to tell you. So on these data points that we have, and I'll show this in the configuration, you can actually just say, hey, if this bit flips, on the POI, and this indicates that the printer's jammed, I want you to notify everybody in this group, and they can get a push notification to their phone, they can get an email, they can get both. That way we have the process itself telling you, hey, I need attention. And this can save precious downtime as well as, keep your people informed. So a few other, great features we have in the iPad app. So changing apps here, that is really our flagship app, iQagent. But here's iQagent AR, and it's really the same app. I'm still on my iPad, and it's asking me to kind of just move around the environment, and it's still showing the camera. But what I'll do is there's a dot in the middle. I'm going to point it at the QR code, and it's going to place an anchor. So you can see there's just this kind of anchor laying right on top. And then I've got some controls, and it's going to pull up the information from this POI indicated by the QR code. Now, one of the things I can do is I can actually add the point of interest right there floating above the equipment. And I can select it. I can grab it and kind of move it around. And I can just save this. Now, I can interact with this POI exactly like I did, so I can say pull up a manual if I want. And what I would like to show, this is really cool. People don't really realize what they're looking at until I do this. I can actually walk all the way around back of this thing because it's anchored from where my QR code is. Now that's kind of cool. But another thing that we can do is we can actually break this POI out. So I've got a menu here, and let's say that my dancer is right around where this hose connects. So I can put a piece of data and just put it right there, kind of floating by where the dancer is, and it's giving me a readout. All right. Or let's say over here, I want to put my inspection check video, and I'll just put it right back here. And let's say that this is where the inspection check is. What I have now is a video that basically just plays. And it can show me exactly what to do. And this is a lot like what I just described, where I've got my iPhone showing a video how to change a headlight. We can place videos in context of the equipment that show people how to do stuff. And this is a lot more intuitive, when we get this. And I can put documents and everything. And see if I save this. I've just created an AR screen, an AR scene. But I've saved it back to my server, so I could pull out my iPhone right now and pull this exact same scene up. That's all it takes to create one of these. It literally takes seconds.
Well, I want to take a stab at describing this for the audio audience. So originally, we had our iPad with a camera looking at the machine, and on the screen we had like a pop-up window, like you would expect in any application, skate application, HMI. And so that was wherever we pointed the camera, that little window stayed in the same place with iQagent. Now with iQagent AR, it becomes more like a virtual reality. If you ever played Oculus Quest or any virtual reality, where Bob is taking that pop-up window and he's placing it on top of the machine in 3D space. and he's taken the video that he had earlier and he's placing that to the side of the machine in 3D space. And as he walks around his office, those two pop-up windows stay in those 3D space locations. So as he walks around the back of the machine, he can no longer see the video because he's looking at the back of the video screen or the back of the pop-up. But the nice thing about that is that you create the scene. You're laying out all these different pieces around the machine. So now as you just turn your head and look at a machine, all the data is there floating in space around the machine. Whereas, if you turn away from it, maybe you're looking at a different machine and you see its floating data. So it's a very cool, anybody who's listening, this would be something you probably want to come in and check out in the video edition, either at the automationblog.com or on YouTube or Rumble or somewhere else. But how did I do, Bob? Did I do okay explaining that?
That was outstanding, Shawn. You're very good at this. I get so immersed in kind of, I've been dealing with this product for a long time, is I kind of forget, to explain that, and also the wow factor. This is really simply what augmented reality is. Notice that when I said, okay, I'm going to place this dancer position over by where the dancer is, etc. All augmented reality really is the ability to place information that is computer generated directly in the context of the real world. And so if I've got a dancer on a machine and I put the dancer position with a changing number there, intuitively, anyone that's familiar at all with that machine is going to look at that and know exactly what it is. I don't have to explain it. I don't have to give them a user manual. It's a lot like the first down line when you're watching football. There's two teams looking at each other and there's a yellow line. If you know anything about football, you know that that's the line they got to get to in order to get a first down. They don't have to label it or anything. And so that's a really great layman's explanation for, what augmented reality can do for us. But there's a lot of advanced things that I'd like to talk about in a moment. But this is the AR app. And one thing I'm going to say is, number one, this is a very cool app. And number two, it's not extremely useful right now. You can't see me, but both hands are on this iPad. That means I cannot work and view this information. Mm-hmm. And so one of the things I would like to say about augmented reality is if you don't have a wearable, unless you're in a fixed position, if you don't have a wearable, then it's not as useful. So what we really need is augmented reality plus a wearable device that allows us to see the information in context to the real world, but also have our hands free to work. And so that's what HoloLens has been trying to do. That's what, Vuzix and a few others, have been trying to do. But what I want to show you next is kind of a practical application. It's really more assisted reality, but that is with the RealWear headset. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to close this out. And what I'm going to do now is pull out my RealWear headset. And I don't have my camera on. And maybe what I can do, let me see if I can show this. All right. All right. So can you see the video there? This is what the headset looks like. It's got a band on it. And it's got this eyepiece right here. And what I'm about to show you, and I have to turn the unit on. Okay, there we go. Main menu. So this device, and I'm gonna, since you've seen, you can see the wearable on my head, I'm gonna close this window. But what you see in this window here is what I'm seeing sitting right below my eye. So that's in that little eyepiece. And the beauty of this is it sits below your eye instead of straight out, which could obstruct your vision, or up, which would, kind of cause eye strain. Now notice that I don't leave the camera on all the time. I just have this screen. And, we tried doing that, but it not only did it, really use the battery up, but it was also kind of disorienting. You're walking around and there's this view screen. But this application does the same thing as iQagent on the iPad, but it's really constructed to take advantage of the RealWear. I'm using the Navigator 500. But if I want to look at that same information on that roll motor, and the thing about RealWear is if you see the text, you can say it and it's just like tapping the button. So if I say scan POI, it's just like tapping that button, and it'll find the QR code and just pull up the same point of interest. So there's my data. Now, if you remember on the iPad, I could tap this data and get, say, a trend screen. Here, I just simply have to say it. Roll speed, current. So what it's showing now is it's got roll speed and current highlighted on the point of interest, and then it's showing the same trend screen below, and it's updating live about once a second. Page down. So I can page up, page down just using my voice. And if I want to pull up documents, down in the right-hand corner, there's a button that says flip view. So I can just say flip view. So notice it didn't do it the first time. It can kind of, you have to give it a little bit of a hesitation so that it can know that you're doing a command rather than just talking. But now I'm looking at a list of all the documents that are on this POI. RF200 manual. Now it actually recognized that. The label actually said RF200 manual. That's not a word. You know, RF200 is not a word in the English dictionary, but it actually understood exactly what I wanted, which I think is, you know, pretty darn exciting for voice recognition. You know, it can actually recognize phonetically, you know, what's there. But now you can see it's pulled up the document, and this document, it's a little grainy, so I can zoom in. Zoom level 3. So now you can see that I'm zoom in, and as I move my head around, it's just kind of moving with me. Zoom level 2. So I'm going to zoom back out, and I can do things like go to page 5, and it'll navigate directly to page 5. So I can use my voice to completely navigate this document, or, you know, kind of do whatever I want. Navigate back. Another cool thing is I'm going to pull up my equipment inspection form. Now, you remember when I pulled it up on the iPad, it was in a browser, so I just had a big long list of questions. Watch what it looks like here, especially for those of you on YouTube. I'll try to describe this, but I'm going to pull up the equipment inspection form. Equipment inspection. So now what it's doing is it pulled up the iQagent Forms app that is also on this RealWear headset. And it's given this copy a unique name, and I could change that, but I'm going to simply say start. Start. So notice that it gives us one control at a time. So it's showing the top of the form with the iQagent logo, and then I've got some commands below. Previous step, jump to next step. Next step. So it goes to the next control, tells us the name of the form, next step. And it's asking me for my name. So notice that it says, hey, you can scan a barcode or you can enter text. I can use my voice. If I've got a barcode with my name, say on my employee badge, I could use that. Enter text. And here it gives me some options. I can just do dictation, or I can use voice keyboard. Let's try that. Voice. There we go. Alpha. So you can see this is phonetic. Delete, delete. So I'm ex-military, so this is pretty comfortable to me. Beta, Oscar, beta, space, Mike, Echo, Alpha, Delta, Sierra, accept. So I can use my voice to put in text, or I can scan. Next step. Next step. So notice I have to kind of give it a hesitation. Now, one of the cool things about this is I can jump around this form very easily without traversing the whole form. That's when I'm going to use the jump to command. Jump to. So this gives me a list of all the questions on this form. And on the right, if there's already a value, it tells me what that value is. So let's say that I want to jump directly to the video that shows how to perform the step. So notice it has a number, in this case, the number 8 beside it. So I could either say the text or the number. Select item 8. So now that goes directly to that step. It's asking me if I want to see a video, and I've got yes or no. So I'll choose yes. Next step, play video. So now I've got this video that's showing me exactly how to do this inspection step. Video pause. And so I can pause the video, I can rewind it, I can do whatever I want. Stop, video stop, video stop. Next step. So I can do a lot of the other things that we did. It doesn't support gestures, so I'm not going to be able to draw on pictures. Here it's asking me which department. Next step. Yes. Next step. And so here it's actually showing me the live data. So it's saying, hey, check the roll speed. It's giving me a live readout of that roll speed. So that's what we were looking at on the other form. Next step. Next step. There's the whole point of interest that we had. Next step. Yes. So it's asking me, do I see any problems? And I'm saying next, and I'm saying yes. So when I go to the next step, it's going to ask me information about that problem. Next step. Area not clean. Missing parts. Next step. Take picture. So now it's asking me to take a picture of the problem if I want. Zoom level 3. So I'll just look at my equipment and say, take photo. It'll take the photo, and I can add as many photos as I want, so I can take pictures of any areas of that I'm concerned about. Next step. Next step. Submit. So now I've successfully done an equipment inspection, and I haven't had to use my hands. I've just used my voice. So this goes into the database, and we can pull this up, back at iQagent. So you can see that this allows you to get the information. It allows you to get the information directly in front of the equipment or anywhere you're in the plant. It allows you to do this completely hands-free. And this RealWear headset, especially the Navigator, is actually extremely comfortable and very light. If you've looked at the first version, RealWear HMT1, it was good. And as long as it was on a hard hat or on a bump cap, it was fairly stable and fairly comfortable, but it was a little heavier. I didn't notice how heavy it was until I put the Navigator on. And the Navigator comes with a headband. It's very comfortable. So that's just kind of a quick demo from 3 different client type devices, the iPad, the also looking at iQagent AR on the iPad, and then looking at the RealWear headset. Now, what I would like to do, and Shawn, do you want to jump in and make any comments before I kind of talk about what the configuration side of this looks like?
No, I just wanted to share with the audience that the headset you just took off, it has like a Halo headband with a camera
Yes.
on it, and it has a boom that comes out of the front that you aimed at the lower part of your vision. So it came in underneath, towards the bottom of your vision, as you described. You don't need to wear glasses for that to work. Is that correct, or do you?
No, you don't.
Okay.
But if you need glasses to see well, they do not encumber that. And you can also wear safety glasses while you're using it, which is pretty important.
Yeah, that's very important. All right, good. I just wanted for the audio audience kind of explain it a little bit what it's like the fact that it has the microphone, it has the little display that you look at, and then the camera on the headband.
Perfect. And if you want to see those, realwear.com, they show you some models, or you can go. I'm sure in this when Shawn posts this, we'll probably have some images, or on my website at iqagent.com. You can see it.
Perfect.
So going back, I get a lot of questions about the architecture. We install in the plant. We're on-prem. We do not phone home. We also have, if you want a cloud or architecture and do SaaS-based, we can also do that. But it's very simple. iQagent installs in 10 minutes. And, so typically you need a Windows Server VM or a Windows 10 Pro VM. And it's installed in your plant. And the server itself is going to have a connection to your process network, but your mobile devices do not have to have that. They just need to be able to talk to the server. You don't have to put them on your PLC network or anything. But when you scan a POI code from whatever device, it makes a secure request on your network. It goes to a server service where iQagent is installed. The server goes out and gets all the information that you've created for that point of interest or whatever that request is, and just returns it as what we call a JSON object. And then whichever client you're using will take that JSON object and then just build the display, be it an augmented reality display or a static display or for the headset. So it's pretty simple, to kind of understand. And a lot of people ask us, hey, do you have to be hosted on the web? Do you have to have an internet connection, which a lot of plants will not allow? The answer is no, you do not. And I also get a lot of questions about the engineering. And the engineering is extremely simple. We've been kind of working on this since 2011. And you don't have to, there's no programming, there's no scripting. You don't have to be a developer to use this. And a lot of manufacturing software is pretty difficult. But what I would like to show you is first, here, the enterprise section, I've got a list of groups and I've got my points of interest that have the point of interest icon. So navigating to that point of interest, you can see the QR code, and that's what you print out and put on the equipment. And then we can see a list of documents that go on our info view and a list of data that goes on the data view. And you can get information about this. But what I want to show very quickly is I'm just going to create a new point of interest and then just scan it. And so I've got a group called demos. And what I'll do is I'm just going to click here called add POI. And let's just say that this point of interest is motor 67. And for location, it's sitting on station 5 of line 4, just kind of making that up. And it's asking us what type of charting would you like for live data. I like to use the trend, but you can do pi or bar. And also the default view mode of the POI. And the point of interest object has both data and info. Data is your live process data. Info is your links to documents and things. I'll default it to data and just click add. So now we've created a POI, and I'm navigating to that. So you can see the QR code. And once you create this never changes. And we have a section to put on information for our info view, which is going to be our documents and data. And if you have SharePoint, you can do what I'm about to do here. You can drag in a bunch of links, and I actually went to the wrong one, but you can navigate to a bunch of links, say in an Excel spreadsheet, and drag and drop. Or if you don't have document management, what I'm going to do is I'm showing a list of documents in my File Explorer, and I'm just going to choose a couple of these. And I'm just going to drag and drop them into the info view, and you can see it just creates these. And it's basically uploading them to the iQagent Enterprise software so that it can show them. And here it'll actually show the link, and I can click the link and see exactly what that document looks like. And I can go in and clean up, so it uses the name of the file or the resource. And so when you're thinking about using the RealWear and using your voice, the underscores in this, the name of this file is PM_inspection_report. I'm just going to remove the underscores here so that I can say it, more easily on the RealWear. And I'll just add this here. If I want to just, add something else like a URL, let's say that I have a document out on the internet, I can just choose URL. And then I've got a ready-made link to a Siemens file that's out there, and I can just paste that URL or drag it in and put that in there. And you can also create categories, so you can manage or organize your documents on your POI. If you've got 50 documents, you don't want to have to scroll through 50 documents. You can create a category if you want. And if we want to add a form, I can just do add form, and it's asking me to choose a form from what we have. And so once I choose a form, I'm just going to choose the same equipment inspection, but it gives you a preview, and it gives you also the ability to pre-populate the field. So since I know that I'm on this particular piece of equipment, I can pre-populate the serial number with, the serial number for this specific piece of equipment. That way we don't have to do it. So that gives us quite a few documents and an external link and a video and a form for our info view. So down below is our data view, and this allows us to get information. I'm showing a list: OPC DA, which is the older version of OPC, OPC UA, ODBC, where I can write a query, or I actually have a simulator. If you're playing around with this in your lab and you don't have a data source, but you want to see what data looks like, or you're just trying to do a proof of concept, you can use a simulator. But I'm going to choose OPC UA. And what it's going to do is it's going to show us, I'm choosing Kepware, and I've got some tags sitting in Kepware, and I'm just going to pull those in. And so now it's got a list of these, and I can go in and kind of make these nice, like say here on current. For my format, I want only 2 points to the right of the decimal, so I'll put 0.2F is current, so I'm just going to put amps for my units, and I can also do color. And another thing that we were talking about earlier is notifications, and this literally could not be easier. If I want this to notify me if the current gets too high, I check notification, and then I've got a list of operators like greater than, equal to. So let's say if the current's greater than 123 amps, notify everybody in the engineers group, and then here's a message. And it literally, once you update this and that current violates that rule we just put in, everybody gets the push notification. That's all you have to do. So it's pretty simple. And I will just choose update data. So I've got some data here. So I've actually just created an entire POI. All that really remains is to print out the QR code, put it on the piece of equipment. But I want to show you something here that really speaks to how easy the software is to use. And I'm going to have to restart my air server because it tends to go to sleep. So I am going to pull up air server. Just waiting on it to initialize here. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to pull my phone up here. All right, it's coming up. So there's my phone, and I'll just navigate to iQagent. So it's showing my phone, and I'm just going to hit scan. And I'm going to scan the QR code right off the configuration that we have. And there we go. And so it's showing, there's my current. You can see that the number's formatted 2 places to the right. I've got my mode, I got my speed. It showed up on the data side of the POI because that's what we defaulted it to. So there's that guy there. And then I'm going to flip it over, and here's all the documents that we added to the info view. So here I'm pulling up our Siemens RF200 manual, and that's out on their site. I can also pull up this S7 1500 PLC document, which is actually a pretty big document. It's going to take a minute to load. I don't want to waste time on it, but there's my parts list. So really all I've had to do is just drag and drop some information in, and then boom, it's ready to go. It's very, very simple to do. And all of this is got a database behind it. You can use SQLite, SQL Server. So if you're a SQL person, you can actually, move stuff in directly into the database, if you want to do that. And so I guess the main thing about this is showing the ease of engineering. And one other thing I'd like to show you, I'm going to show you a little bit about forms, but one pushback I get is, people will say, well, I really don't want to have to go print a QR code out and stick another QR code out there. I already have asset tags. Well, that's fair enough, So notice down here, we've got this map POI button. What this allows us to do is if I hit that, it's going to bring up a scanner. It actually picked up something I didn't want it to pick up, but I've got an asset tag up here,
Which
and
looks
I'm
like
going to let
just
it.
a regular barcode.
Yeah, it's a little wrinkly, but notice that now if I go off this screen and then I go back and pull out that asset tag, which I really need to kind of unwrinkle that. Now my asset tag pulls up my POI. So all you really have to do is we have a menu that allows you to just navigate to any POI that you want. And then you can just hit map barcode and you can map it directly to the asset tags on the equipment. Or we have an import feature, you can put those directly into the database. So the engineering is extremely simple. And I guess the next question I get is on our forms, how easy are the forms to create? And so I'll show you the equipment inspection form, and it's literally just a collection of controls. So here I've got the form and I've got my image and a horizontal line and the name of the form and inspector's box. And then on the right, I've just got a list of controls. So I can literally just kind of drag and drop these controls anywhere I want in the form and then just hit the configuration and fill these out and do whatever I want.
So those familiar with Visual Basic or Visual Studio, they'll understand what controls are. For those who are more used to PLCs, those would be like a toolbox where
Right.
in a PLC you would have instructions, normally open, normally close box. Here it's paragraph, horizontal line, image, video. Very intuitive, very easy for the audio audience. I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yep. Thank you. And that's really the thing. The feedback that we get is people that create that are able to use a computer. A lot of people that don't have a lot of experience doing this sort of stuff, if they understand the form, like maybe they're the person filling out that form, once they understand what the controls are, they are able to create the form themselves. And so, that kind of speaks to the ease of use of this software. Now, we're not going to do extremely complicated things where a form's got to be routed to 5 different people for 5 different signatures and things like that. That's not what this is for. This is for the 70% of forms that are just a straightforward checklist. You can automatically fill in things. You can automatically hide things that are not relevant, but you can include live data and live videos. And we find this covers 70 to 75%, of the data entry forms and everything, that we use. And we also, one of the things that we added is, let's say someone's doing a safety inspection, and if they annotate an area that has an unsafe condition, you can drag in this email recipient control. And if, let's say that they choose, yes to, is there water on the floor? Then that yes would send an email with a specific, form link to, say, your safety manager or, whoever the head of that department is, so they can be immediately notified that, there's a problem that they need to take care of. So it's actually very powerful, editor, and we spent a lot of time kind of refining this to make it very, very simple to use. So that's just a quick demo of both sides of the software, from the user and also from the engineering side. So I guess what we can do is kind of open this up to some, more discussion. Or Shawn, how do you have some other things that, we should talk about, about this solution?
No, I think we covered everything during your presentation and demo. I think you really kind of covered all the key bases. You showed how it worked both in a 2D and an augmented version, and you also showed using the headset. You showed developing and creating the POIs, and how you can use either a QR code that this generates or an existing asset tag, which is a simple barcode, and how to create a form. So it really seems like this has been designed to be easy to get up and running and use and deploy. And you even used Kepware for your tags, which I think many people, if you haven't used Kepware, it's a very very easy to use. OPC, connected to your devices on the plant floor, and they have drivers for almost everything. And there's others too. They're not the only ones, but I've used it quite a bit in my past. So it was nice to see that. And I think we've covered everything. I think the biggest question is so now we have somebody listening or watching the podcast, and they want to move forward. What would be the next steps for somebody who says, I really want to try this out and see about getting a test system in and moving forward with it?
Well, that's a great question. And what I would like to do is just the very quick thing that you can do is just go to our website, which is iQagent.com. And on our website, there's a big button on the main page that says schedule a demo. But you can also, and I've got to find this under demo in the menu, there is get iQagent Enterprise on the menu for demo. And basically you can fill out a form and say, hey, I want the software. You fill it out. You have to put your company email in there. And I will give you the software, and it runs, without a license. It allows you to create up to 3 points of interest. You can have up to 10 data points. Between those three, you can have up to 10 info points. It allows you to create a form, do a notification, and register 3 devices. And so you can really, without really any risk, just get something in there into your lab that works immediately. And then once that you see it's working, then you just buy a license and it unlocks the software. So that's really the quickest way, to kind of get moving with iQagent as well. Now we also have on our demo pages, there's actually a QR code. You can download iQagent from the App Store, and there's a sample QR code that you can scan, and it will it'll pull up some simulated data. So, we've got a mode called demo mode that you don't have to be connected to a server, and we've got a demo kit. You can download this, just got a bunch of QR codes, and it just shows simulated data and simulated documents so that you can see the app work without even hooking it up to anything. So those are the things that I would recommend. And then, of course, we're here to consult with you about your specific application if you want to get it into the plant.
Excellent. That's great. Now, I couldn't help but notice, and let me know if this is off topic. I couldn't help but notice the Oculus on your desk. And that kind of sparks this question. What is in the future? What are some of the things that you're expecting to release? And it may not have anything to do with Oculus, but in the next, say, 6 months to a year, what are some of the exciting things you're working on behind the scenes that you feel comfortable sharing with us?
Well, that's a great question. And I got the Oculus for Christmas. And because I've been a big fan of VR, I like to play games, and I've got some ideas. And one of the things that we're doing here at iQagent is the next version that we're working on, called iQagent V4. It is completely rewritten in .NET Core, because right now we are, ASPX and .NET. We have a C++ server, and our server component and database can be installed on a Raspberry Pi or a Linux, but the forms won't work because they're based on ASPX and Windows. Oh. So in iQagent version 4, you'll be able to run the entirety of iQagent, your forms, your notifications, all your POIs, everything on any system. So Raspberry Pi, Linux, Unix, Windows, whatever. We're doing that for OEMs and some of the smaller plants. And we also have iQagent Lite, which is out there, but iQagent Lite is an offline version that allows people like OEMs, let's say they have a big equipment, and they could put QR codes all over the equipment. And then if you scan them, you basically download download the app along with all the resources that you've created for your POIs, and they download to the equipment. So it doesn't even have to have a wireless connection. And that is your support package and your documentation. So imagine if it's a big OEM piece of equipment and they have videos in certain sections of the machine to show someone how to repair that section, or to clear a jam, or give you the ability to send a message via email back to the OEM. And we have that coming out as a support package for OEMs. Now with Oculus, a little further out, but some of the things that we've been talking about is some plants are starting to use VR, to look at maybe a new equipment room that they want to do, or some type of virtual training environment. And we've been asked to look into implementing iQagent, where you actually have QR codes or other markers inside a VR simulation, and then actually have it work just like iQagent does in the real world. And so we're kind of exploring that option to see if it's something that is going to be, above all else, useful, because I can do all kind of neat stuff, but if it's not useful, it's going to be kind of a tough sell. But those are some of the things that are coming up. We are very excited for, when Apple Glasses comes out. That's why we created the AR app for iPhone and iPad, is just to go ahead and get a head start. So once Apple Glasses come out, if it's something that can be used on the plant floor, that we're kind of immediately there in the running, pulling up that information. So we're also excited about that. But that's kind of what's happening probably in the next year.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. For anybody who follows Apple, they do not come out with a product until it's ready, and they
Amen.
feel like
Yes.
it's very useful. So the fact that they're jumping into both VR and AR should be a boon to both industries. I'm also a big VR guy since the original Rift, but AR just huge applications, and I really just want to thank you for Bob for coming on the show and showing us all of this, and kind of running us through the features and functions. And I'd encourage anybody out there who wants to know more to go to the iQagent.com website and either schedule a demo or download and play with it. It's great that you have a trials version of the software that people can try, download and try themselves. I also say, I think I can see people using the offline version, OEMs using that to replace a manual, where they can, provide a tethered, hardened iPad, right? And
Yeah.
people could go up and say, okay, what's the startup sequence for this product? And
Right.
for this machine. So very cool stuff. And thanks again for coming on the show. Really appreciate it.
Well, Shawn, I've absolutely enjoyed it, and I've been looking forward to it all week. And of course, this is a topic that is near and dear to my heart. iQagent is my baby. We've been working on this for a long time, and I'm just excited to get back out there, and certainly excited to reach your audience.
Well, thanks again. Appreciate it, Bob.
All right, Shawn, thank you very much.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that episode. I know I did, and I want to thank Bob for coming on the show and telling us all about iQagent, and even giving us a demo that was really cool. If you're listening to the audio only edition, this is one where you may want to go back and watch the video edition. But with that said, if you are watching the video edition, please consider giving us a like and a sub. And if you're listening to the audio only edition, please consider giving us a 5-star review. And thank you to those who have already done so. Really appreciate it. That really helps us grow the audience and find new vendors to come on the show. Now, if you'd like to follow me and buy me a cup of coffee if you want, you can do so over at automation.locals.com. And of course, you'll find all of my training courses over at theautomationschool.com. With that said, I want to wish you all a very safe, healthy, and happy week. And until next time, my friends, peace.